إذا ما سمعتوها. إيه هنحطهم هون لنفرجيهم. So much, Kari. Thank you so much, Dean, for the opportunity. I'm used to give talks while I'm standing, so it's a little bit awkward for me. I will be speaking in English, but if there is a need for translating or saying something in Arabic, إذا حدا في شيء بدكم إياه يتوضح بالعربي، لأن أنا لبنانية بحكي عربي كتير منيح. So بس فيكم ترفعوا إيدكم, you can ask me immediately so we don't keep moving to the next idea وتضيع الفكرة معكم. So I'm gonna start sharing my own story, how I became a practitioner. My husband and we got married about 20 years ago. And when we first got married, I was still living in Lebanon. So we were told that I need to avoid getting pregnant because if I get pregnant, that's going to be a problem for me going to the US at the time we were planning. So I didn't want to use birth control pill. So I asked and I was told about the calendar rhythm method. And we start using it, and we used it for our first about 2 years of marriage. And it worked, supposedly. We didn't get pregnant. So then we tried to use it the other way around to get pregnant. We realized that the method doesn't really work, but we had an infertility problem. And for those of you who do not know what's the calendar rhythm method, it's basically a woman is told to count from the first day of her period up to 14 days and to consider herself fertile those 14 days. If she doesn't want to get pregnant, she just doesn't have intercourse with her husband for the first 2 weeks of the cycle. So we realized that the method wasn't really working. It was an infertility problem that we had. And we went to see fertility specialists in New York. In our journey of infertility, I don't think there was any moment that I still remember like that meeting with the fertility specialist. It was 10 minutes. I will never forget her words. We will make you babies in the lab. رح نعملكم ببيات بالمختبر. Like making sandwich in the kitchen. No compassion, no humanity, nothing. It was so painful. I remember we were going to do it. We were just desperate and we wanted to have children. So we went and heard about how in vitro fertilization is done. We had to attend a session at the fertility specialist clinic. I remember leaving the office crying, saying to a friend who was with me, I don't think I can have children this way. And I'm not judging anyone who did in vitro. Please, if you know anyone or if you yourself have gone that way, please don't consider me judging anyone. It's just, I couldn't. Hearing about the destruction of the embryos, freezing the embryos, all of that, I was like, no way, to have a child, all of these embryos will be destroyed. I just couldn't bear it. I came back home and I remember telling my husband, I'm not doing it. If you want to have children this way, you have to find another woman. It's not going to be me. I was like, no way. And we were left with no other option. Then my friend who was with me, she looked up alternatives to IVF, and she found out about St. Paul VI Institute for the Study of Human Reproduction, which you've always seen the paper that has the title and has this from the Institute. So I contacted the Institute and they told me that I need to start charting my cycles in order for Dr. Hilgers, the founder of the Creighton Model System, to be able to help me. So I started learning. The first step to learning the system is to attend an introductory session, which is a PowerPoint presentation. I remember that same night, waking up, sitting in my bed, saying to myself, I didn't come to the US just to be a chemistry teacher. I need to learn this and share it with others. I never thought I would be doing this. I never thought I would be sharing it in Lebanon, but God has a plan. And it's been 15 years for me since I had become a practitioner. I was a high school teacher, I quit teaching, and I became dedicated to doing this. And I go all around in the US, many states, to teach the Creighton model, to give talks to Maronite communities, to give classes to people who want to learn about it. So we've been trying to get this to Lebanon because we want people to know that there are other methods. Contraception methods, the calendar method, they're not the only ways to plan your families. There's a lot of people who just think this is the only option for them. We want people to know that there are options, and it's time to find the freedom in their ability to effectively avoid or achieve a pregnancy. I do this because I know so many women, young adults, married women, who struggle with many gynecological health issues like polycystic ovarian syndrome, PMS. PMS, just for those who are not familiar with it, it's a premenstrual syndrome. It's those symptoms that a lot of women, and I mean a lot of women, suffer from before their period begins, and we were told all our life, it's normal, it's fine. Every woman suffers with it. Well, good news, the Creighton model and NaProTechnology tells us that PMS can be a legitimate medical condition, and we will hear about that later. So for people who are struggling with PMS, irregular bleeding, severe menstrual cramps, acne, heavy periods, and they're told that the birth control pill or those artificial hormones are their best options, we're here to tell them NaProTechnology offers them real solutions to all these problems. There is another approach, and that's why we're here today. A lot of couples these days are struggling with infertility. We get a lot of couples who come to us and they're told their infertility is unexplained. There is no reason why they can't get pregnant. And they're still wondering why. NaProTechnology seeks to find the problem, treats the problem, and let the couple try to achieve a pregnancy naturally. And that's why it's time for couples to explore a more effective science than in vitro fertilization. It's time for couples to discover what they really need to know and what every woman has the right to know. Women can find the freedom in their ability to use one system from puberty all the way to menopause, whether they get married and they build a family and they breastfeed and approach menopause, or whether they even struggle with infertility, whether they seek root with NaProTechnology and successfully achieve pregnancy, or even they go a route of adoption. Or even for women who are consecrated or religious sisters. I teach a religious sister in New York. And the reason why I teach them, not because they want to use it for family planning, but because they have gynecological problems and they don't want the birth control pill to be prescribed to them as the solution for their problem. NaProTechnology offers real solutions to what they suffer from. And that's what a lot of people are looking forward to. The Creighton model system works by tracking biological markers in the woman's body, which we call it cervical fluid, cervical mucus. What you're seeing here is an example of a chart. What you see me holding is an example of a blank chart that is given to the woman. And this is a stamps packet that's given to her, and she's told how to chart her cycle. And this is an example of a chart. The first 8 days are her period. She charts them with red stamps. Then she has 5 days of dryness. And then she starts observing that cervical mucus, which is very essential in our work. And then after that, she observes the dryness again. What I want to bring your attention to is the levels of the hormones. Notice in black, we have the progesterone levels, the estrogen levels. When the estrogen levels are high, that's when the woman observes the cervical fluid. When the progesterone levels are high, the woman observes dryness. She doesn't observe that discharge. This is very essential because, as the dean and father mentioned, this is something scientific. This is scientifically based. It's not just you try. It's based on hormones that the woman's body produces. This is an example of a chart where the couple used it to get pregnant. When they want to use it to get pregnant, basically what they do, they would select days of fertility. Those days where you see the babies on them, we put the babies on purpose there to remind the woman that she is fertile. So in this cycle, you see the eyes. The eyes means intercourse. So this couple had intercourse on days of fertility, and as a result, they got pregnant. If a couple wants to use it to avoid getting pregnant, what they do, they avoid having intercourse on the days of fertility, and they select the days of infertility to have intercourse. It takes some discipline, self-mastery, but it's done. It can be done, and so many people are doing it. This is just a picture of the female anatomy. I just want to point to the fact that at the opening of the uterus, we have a canal called the cervix. And the cervix, under the influence of the cervical cribs, produces the cervical fluid that we're talking about. And this cervical fluid is very essential for the woman's fertility, because in the presence of this cervical fluid, the sperm can live inside the woman's body from 3 to 5 days. So when intercourse happens on a day of fertility, let's say today is a day of fertility, and there is a good quality of a mucus, the sperm will remain in the woman's body alive up to 3 to 5 days after today. And that's what's going to allow her to get pregnant, not just today, but in 5 days if ovulation is happening in 5 or 4 days. So it plays a role in the fertility process. What we're seeing here is a map of the cervix that was developed by Dr. Odeblad in Sweden. Basically, when the estrogen levels are high, the mucus really arranges itself into a parallel strand channels that allow the sperm to penetrate. And you can see them. You can see them very clearly in the picture. It allows the sperm to penetrate. And not only it allows the sperm to penetrate, it filters the sperm. This shows the importance of the cervical mucus role in the fertility, not only to allow survival of the sperm, but filtration of the sperm. So sperms that are not good, they will not go through those channels. Sperm like with two heads, it will not cross those channels. On the other side, we see a type G mucus, which is basically dryness, that is observed when the progesterone levels are high. And that's when the woman cannot get pregnant. No matter how many acts of intercourse happen during this phase, she will not get pregnant because the sperm cannot penetrate. And this is a microscopic photograph of the mucus. You see the type E when the estrogen levels are high. You see those channels running here. And this is when there is no mucus. And you can picture that like a wall stone barrier to sperm penetration. That's why we call the cervix biological valve, Hanafi, biological valve. It allows the sperm to penetrate when there is a mucus, and it blocks the sperm from entering when there is no mucus. This slide shows us that when ovulation, before ovulation happens, actually, we have a few follicles that start growing, and when they're growing, they produce estrogen, and that's when the mucus is produced. So as ovulation approaches, the follicle is growing and the estrogen levels are rising, and that's when the woman observes the cervical mucus. Once ovulation happens, the follicle turns into yellow body, or what we call corpus luteum. And this body now starts producing progesterone, and there will be no more mucus during this phase. This phase is extremely important for the fertility process, because if the corpus luteum does not produce enough progesterone, this can cause two major problems with women. It can cause infertility, or it can cause miscarriages. There have been so many cases of a pregnant woman miscarrying, and their doctors couldn't figure out what was the reason for their miscarriage. And the reason was the corpus luteum was not producing enough progesterone. It was a simple problem that unfortunately a lot of doctors missed, and so many miscarriages had happened. So once the ovulation happened, the egg lives 12 to 24 hours, which is a very short time. That's where the mucus comes in role, because in the presence of good quality of the mucus, as I mentioned, the sperm can live 3 to 5 days. But if there's no mucus, it can die within hours or even minutes after intercourse. So this, what we're really here talking about, is really a unique system of fertility regulation. It's a life-affirming women's reproductive health, and it provides an authentic language of a woman's health and fertility. And we'll see an example in a few minutes. Just from the chart, we can find a lot of things about the woman's health. It's a pro-woman, it's a pro-family, it's a pro-life, it's a pro-man, it's a pro-marriage. It's for the good of the community, for the good of the family. And it's an alternative to artificial reproductive technologies, as well as to birth control methods. And it's way more than birth control, because it can be used not only to achieve pregnancy or avoid a pregnancy, but to monitor fertility, treat infertility, and treat gynecological problems. And it's a true system of family building. It's not contraceptive. It does not do anything that will stop conception from happening. It's just the way it works. The woman's body is designed in a way where the woman cannot be pregnant every time. So it does not stop this process from happening. It's just the couple do not have intercourse during time of fertility, and this way the pregnancy would not result. It's not abortifacient, and this is a very important point. A lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of women are on the birth control pill or other hormonal contraceptive, and they have no idea how it works in their bodies. This slide shows us 4 mechanisms of action for hormonal birth control. Hormonal birth control can inhibit ovulation, so it will stop the process that we just saw earlier where the follicle grows and the egg grows within it. Or it can make the cervical mucus very thick, which will not allow the sperm to penetrate. Or it can delay the transport of the sperm from here all the way up to the egg. If all these 3 mechanisms of action fail, there is a 4th mechanism of action, 4th one, that a lot of people are not aware of it. If all of that above failed, that means a woman is getting pregnant. There is a new fertilized egg. So what does the hormonal birth control do? They will stop implantation from happening. That means after conception, the fertilized egg comes and attaches itself to the lining of the uterus. But the hormonal birth control would make the lining of the uterus very thin, which will not allow implantation to happen. That's why there is the controversy, if you want to call it, when life begins or when conception happens, because they don't want to consider that the hormonal birth control is ending life. They want to consider that implantation is the beginning of life. I remember one time when I was a high school teacher, we were talking about this mechanism of action with our club after school. And when I finished explaining this, one of my juniors, 16 years old, James, he stood up and he said, I don't think women would be on the birth control pill if they understand what is this doing to their body. And the reality is so many women don't know what's happening, and they stop taking those hormonal birth control and they end up facing problems because they stop their body from functioning the way it's supposed to. We cannot expect it to go back to normal just right away. It takes a long time to recover. Sometimes, unfortunately, some women's body don't recover from its effect. So it's not contraceptive, it's not abortifacient, and it's not the rhythm method because it does not rely on counting, but it relies on tracking biological marker. And it's all natural. We live in a time, I don't know about here in Lebanon, but in the US, a lot of people try to go organic, try to eat healthy, to exercise. Yet they take the birth control pill, which has nothing, there's nothing natural about it. What we're talking about today is 100% natural, designed for every woman. Of course, there are other natural methods, and I'm going to just touch on them briefly, but the Creighton is the one that I'm specialized in it, and that's why we're talking about it. There is the Symptom Pro Fertility Education, which relies on tracking the temperature. There is also the couple-to-couple league Marquette model, and there is the Billings ovulation method, and the Creighton model, which we're talking about. So the Creighton model tracks the cervical fluid. Other methods track temperature, or they even track hormones. We rely only on one biomarker, which is the cervical fluid. And it was really easy to track it. It takes dedication, definitely, but it's very easy to track it once you learn how to do it. All what it takes is toilet tissue, and just when you're in the restroom and you track it. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Marise, for reminding us of the women's fertility system. And now we will, our Next presenter would be Gretta Gibrine Abou Slaibi. She's got a master's degree in hospital and health management from the ISA Business School and master's degree in analysis and management of healthcare institutions from Paris Diderot, Paris 7, and the École des Hautes Études en Santé Publique from France. She's the CEO of Al Mahabba Hospital and Primary Healthcare Center. She's a teacher of ethics of life and pluralism in the Antonine University at Zahle. And she's a seminar instructor at the Lebanese University Faculty of Sciences, the Master of Reproduction and Development, Fanar, Lebanon. Thank you, Gretta, for continuing the talk of Marise on Introduction to the Creighton Model FertilityCare System.
Thank you, Amina. I'm continuing with the uses of Creighton Model System. As Marise said, there's many use for the system. It is used mainly to monitor, maintain, evaluate the women's gynecological health from puberty to menopause. It is used to either achieve or avoid pregnancy. The first study that I'm going to show is a study done in 1980 and published in 1998 in the Journal of Reproductive Medicine. The number of couples enrolled was 1,876 couples, with more than 17,000 couple months of use. This study was done to monitor how was the result of avoiding pregnancy in couples of normal fertility. The effectiveness was 99.5%, and the use effectiveness of the study to avoid pregnancy was 96.8%. These effectiveness measures are as good as oral contraceptive and better than any other drug or device on the market. Many studies went later, and the same results are obtained, like in Creighton University, St. John Mercy University, many other studies all over the world, the same results, 99.9% avoiding pregnancy. In achieving pregnancy, the system, as Marise said, is not contraceptive. It's also used by couples with normal fertility to achieve a pregnancy. The slide shows that on individual cycle-by-cycle effectiveness, when the days of fertility are selected for use, the pregnancy rate is 76% in the first cycle, 90% in the third, and 98% in the sixth cycles. And if in the first year, 21% of the couples used this technique to achieve pregnancy, so the fertility rate is 21%. The Creighton Model System with the NaProTechnology are the first system that not only works on achieving and avoiding pregnancy, but it's a first women health science network family planning with reproductive health monitoring and maintenance. It's a fertility care based approach rather than fertility control approach to family planning and gynecological health. NaProTechnology uses the Creighton Model FertilityCare System biomarkers to monitor easily and objectively the occurrence of various hormonal events during the menstrual cycle. NaProTechnology provides valid information that can be interpreted by specialists all over the world because the procedures are standardized and it's a common language for everybody using this technique. So NaProTechnology identifies the problems and cooperates with the menstrual and fertility cycle that correct the condition, maintain the human ecology, and sustain the procreative potential. Women now with these systems have an opportunity to know and understand the causes of the symptoms from which they suffer. So NaProTechnology seeks out the underlying causes, repair the medical problems, then facilitates conception through the loving and self-given action of husband and wife, and not in the laboratory in a technical way. So unlike a common suppressive or destructive approach, it helps women maintain their dignity, the dignity of the family and of the fetus. This slide describes NaProTechnology, how NaProTechnology uses the Creighton model system, the chart, to explain what's happening in the woman body. So with the first row, with the stamps here, show there's no mucus, no white stamps with babies, so it's an infertility because we don't have a cervical mucus secretion. The second one is a miscarriage because the bleeding occurs right after the peak day. The third one is a low progesterone chart because we have bleeding shortly after the ovulation. And the fourth one is abnormal bleeding, and that abnormal bleeding can be associated with many problems, hormonal problems, and even cancer. That's why it needs further medical exploration. Okay. So NaProTechnology not only is used for infertility problem, it's a real solution for many problems, many problems in women, like menstrual cramps, premenstrual syndrome, ovarian cysts, repetitive miscarriage, chronic discharges. Many problems are diagnosed and treated with this technology. This slide shows the infertility treatment, the success rate, NaProTechnology versus IVF. When endometriosis, when a woman suffers of endometriosis with NaProTechnology, the success rate is nearly 76% versus 21% for in vitro fertilization. Polycystic ovaries 80% versus 25.6% in vitro fertilization, and the tubular occlusion is 38% versus 27.2%. So the system adds a completely new dimension to the successful achievement of pregnancy in couples with infertility and other reproductive problems. With the use of Creighton model system only, the success rate is between 20 and 40%. With the Creighton model system and medical treatment with NaProTechnology, the success rate is up to 80%. The actual success rate will vary, of course, with different medical conditions. This slide shows a study made with 1,072 couples. The first column is before NaProTechnology evaluation, and the second column is after NaProTechnology evaluation. Before the NaPro evaluation, 500 couples suffered unexplained infertility. That's 47.2%. But after NaProTechnology evaluation, only 5 couples infertility remains unexplained. That's 0.5%. Miscarriage also after NaProTechnology became 0.2%. It was 11.6% before NaProTechnology evaluation. The main factors that were shown in this study, because of the limited cervical mucus, as Marise said, this is a marker that is used in NaProTechnology more than other techniques. So with the limited cervical mucus, only 12 people suffered this condition before NaProTechnology evaluation. The rate became 25.7% after NaProTechnology evaluation, and the most findings were in the progesterone and estrogen hormone, because the the level of progesterone and estrogen. In the laboratory, we measure the levels at the 3rd and 4th and 5th day of the menstrual cycle. But with NaProTechnology, it's after the ovulation, every 2 days after the ovulation. So we have the charting, and the level of estrogen and progesterone were implicated in 86% of couples that suffering infertility and 63%. So that was the main findings. And in NaProTechnology, they have the biosimilar hormones that can give to the woman that suffers decreased level in estrogen or progesterone. That's why the number and effectiveness of this science is more relevant than other sciences. Many studies also showed the same results, like in an Irish study, in Canadian study, Ukrainian study, and French study. The same reasons the same reasons were shown, mainly the decrease. Same result, mainly the decrease of progesterone and estrogen after the ovulation. Okay. What you have in your hands is the summary of the effectiveness summary of NaProTechnology versus IVF technology, how to avoid pregnancy, infertility treatment, diagnosis of luteal phase, premenstrual dystrophic disorder, PMS, postpartum depression, and all the diseases that can suffer, that a woman can suffer of, plus the cost effectiveness. So Creighton model is cost effective, much more than birth control and IVF system. So NaProTechnology has no harmful side effect. NaProTechnology and Creighton model system support reproductive health, environmentally friendly, minimal costs, are adaptable to achieve or avoid pregnancy, encourage sexual maturity, and respect God's design to married love. So they have many positive effects, like increasing knowledge, respect of fertility of a couple, shared system. It's not my job or your job to chart the secretion of the uterus. It's our job. So it's a family matter. Children are seen as a gift, and with the SPICE technique, it increases communication. The SPICE technique is spiritual, physical, intellectual, communicative, and emotional. SPHSP, ICE. So there's a big difference between sexual contact and genital contact. With the genital contact, it's only a small part of the body of the woman and the man that are in contact. But with sexual contact, it's the whole person. So it's not just intercourse, it's the whole body. And with the NaProTechnology and the Creighton model system, they encourage the people to do many activities, spiritual activities, physical, intellectual, creative, and emotional activities, so they become closer. When the genital contact is not needed or is not should not be done in order to avoid pregnancy, the sexual contact and the sexual interaction is highly recommended to strengthen the links of the couple. So many studies show that the SPICE technique strengthen the links of the couples. Like in a study made in 2018, 36 married couples were given this questionnaire. It's a 25 question, and they were measuring the index of how much they are satisfied with the technique, and the results show that they are very satisfied. It's 12 for the man and 11 for the woman, and each time the index is less than 30, it's very good index. Thank you.
So we're gonna wrap up with a quick story, and then we were going to share some testimonies from the book Women Heal, but God in His providence provided a client who's using it, who is with us here. She's American and she's living in Lebanon, and she will share her own testimony in a few minutes. I'm gonna share this, just a story, media cover-up. This is a book written by Dr. Hilgers, the founder of the Creighton Model, and inside a look at the war on women. In one of the chapters he titled Media Cover-Up, he shared a story that he read in a magazine, a story of a young woman, 18 years old, who was suffering from severe menstrual cramps, which is an indicator sometimes to endometriosis. And she went to her gynecologist, who told her that she really has endometriosis and it can affect her fertility. She needs to get pregnant as soon as possible, otherwise she won't get pregnant later. She was single, not engaged, not married, so he convinced her. She did in vitro from a total stranger, and she had babies, and she still suffers with her cramps. Dr. Hilgers had similar case, a married woman who wanted to get pregnant. So he treated her and she got pregnant. He sent the story to the same magazine. They refused to publish it because unfortunately they don't want women to know that there is something that really empowers women, that really allows women to be in tune with their bodies and to be in control of their bodies. There are many stories and many examples. This is an example of just a couple struggling with infertility for 7 years, and they had completely dry cycles, and then there was only one cycle after the recommendation of her practitioner to take vitamin B6. She had 1 day of a mucus, which resulted in her getting pregnant. The next slide shows that when doctors do some testing, they just do it based on days in the cycle, and it doesn't really help much. The NaPro doctors, they do all their testing, and you'll hear that from Dr. Amr and Dr. Carpentier later. They do them based on a chart. That's why like day 22 is insignificant for us, because day 22 can be pre-ovulation for so many women. We want to share with you more. We will stop here. I'll let Kari come and talk, but I just want to let you know that we have social media pages. You can follow us. You can get more information. We're preparing for training in Lebanon in November, where faculty will come from the US to do the training. And this is Dr. Hilgers with some of the babies that he delivered. And this is one of babies that he helped bring to this world through NaProTechnology. And this is the book Women Healed. And I will let Kari introduce herself and share her own testimony. Kari, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Marise, and everybody who has helped coordinate this event and with the organization. I am very happy to be here. So as Marise said, I am from the US. I have been living in Lebanon for almost 1 year now. And I first heard of the Creighton method because I actually grew up not too far from Creighton University and the Pope Paul VI Institute, where it was founded. So I had always kind of heard of this thing growing up, but it wasn't until living in Brooklyn, I moved there in 2020, that I really started to understand what it was and to understand what that meant for me as a woman and what that meant for me and my health. I needed to go have a yearly checkup done. It had been longer than a year since I had a checkup, and at that time I was suffering from migraines almost every day. I would say out of 1 month, there were probably 20 days where I had a migraine episode. And I noticed that there were times where I was really irritable. I was mean to the people that I was living with my roommates. And then also I noticed that there were times where I just wanted to cry and I couldn't do anything about it. It was COVID. I was working, going into the office every day. So I was like, well, it's stress from COVID. But I actually have a friend who has similar values to me. My Catholic faith is very important to me. And she encouraged me to go to the Gianna Center in Manhattan. And so I went. I was able to have one of the doctors there agree to be my primary care physician. And I go in and we do the normal checkup. And she starts to ask me, by the end of the visit, is there anything else you want to discuss with me? And so I mentioned, like, yes, I'm feeling like, I have these intense moments of depression and I'm suffering from migraines. I'm trying to figure out my triggers. And that's when she starts to talk to me about charting. And I knew that it was a thing because I have many friends who have gotten married and have started charting using either the Billings method, some of them use the Creighton method, some of them use FEM, to know when they could have intercourse to achieve or avoid pregnancy. I was not at a point in my life where I was looking to do either one of those things, but she explained to me it's for much more than just pregnancy. It tells you a lot about your body. So I left that office and she put me in touch with my educator, Carolina, and I would meet with Carolina. I had the introductory session with the PowerPoint, and then after that, she would teach me how to chart. So as Marise mentioned, when I look at the tissue paper, the toilet paper, what does it mean? Okay, and then how do I reflect that on my chart? And at the beginning, we met very often. And each time that I met with Carolina, I discovered more about my body, which for me was kind of shocking because I already felt pretty in tune with my body. I have a master's of public health degree specializing in exercise, so in physical activity and nutrition. So I tend to be aware of what's going on, how I'm feeling, things like that. But I discovered much more as I was charting and talking to Carolina. And then it came time for the blood tests that Marise alluded to. And I have to admit, at first it seemed very daunting because I was working full-time in New York City with a typical New York life of going all over the place. How in the world was I going to fit in these visits to a lab every 2 days, have my blood drawn, to check my progesterone, my estrogen, all of these other things? And now I can say, looking back on it, I would do it all over again because for me, it really changed my life. Because of the charting and the NaProTechnology, my physician was able to identify that there's a moment in my cycle where my progesterone plummets. And that causes so many different issues. And we found a link to, at a certain moment in my cycle is when I tend to have very severe migraine attacks. And I was very thankful that my friend sent me to the Gianna Center because as a public health professional in New York City, I knew that most of women's health is centered around the birth control pill. And I was actually prescribed the birth control pill when I was in my teens because I had heavy bleeding as a teenager. My period was absolutely horrible, and so my gynecologist said, you're 16 years old, take this pill. Once I went off of it, my body went crazy. And so I was afraid of finding a doctor in New York that would do that same thing. That would just say, this is the blanket like the blanket fix. Take the pill, has all of your hormones in it, it'll work itself out. But with Dr. Multi and NaProTechnology, we identified the root cause. And for me, as a user, but also as a public health professional, it was important to know what was causing these things. Instead of just saying, this is it, okay, you have moments where you want to cry, take an antidepressant. No, I can now take real progesterone at a certain moment in my cycle. I have to be aware of my body still to this day. It's not like, okay, it's been 2 weeks since my last period ended, so it's time to take it. Like, I have to be aware of what's going on. But because of that, I can say, like, my PMS symptoms are much better. Yes, sometimes it's still tough at times, but not nearly what it was before I started using the Creighton model and having the testing done with NaProTechnology. And for me, that's a huge game changer to know that I remember the first month that I took the progesterone, I texted my doctor because it was amazing to be able to walk from the subway to my office without feeling like I was crying, because no joke, there were many days where in the 5-block walk, I would just start to cry because I felt overwhelmed. I couldn't handle it. And I thought it was normal. I was told that PMS was normal. I was one of those people. And I realized it's not normal, but it's common. And there's a big difference there. And so I'm forever grateful for the Gianna Center, for the Creighton Model, and for NaProTechnology, because being able to take the right medication that addresses the root cause has been a complete game changer for me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kari, for your testimony. Thank you, Marise. Thank you, Gretta. Thank you for showing us that the Creighton system is not only to avoid pregnancy or to try to have pregnancy, but also it is a great tool to indicate irregularities in the women's body. So it's a women-friendly tool that can reconcile women with their bodies. Thank you very much.